friends that I still spend time with today. It was so special having them live so close. They could just pop in any time. These friends were, and still are, my village of support. The fact that they were so accessible was the main reason that I stayed in my little London home for so many years. In the early days, Camden was a fairly rough area that attracted more than its fair share of unsavoury characters, which is possibly why it was affordable to me at the time. But things that I would normally take in my stride were starting to wear me down in my advancing years. Vagrants were always urinating on my doorstep. I even interrupted one distinguished gentleman as he relieved himself. I was wearing my Prada shoes at the time, and they didn't fare well with what seemed like 10 pints of lager splashed across them. Another very bleak night, a homeless fellow actually defecated in the same spot. Not on my Prada shoes, thank God, but he left a nice steaming message on my welcome mat. To my horror, I caught that little gem on CCTV camera, and no matter how much one tries, one cannot unsee something like that. I was also witness to the never-ending zombie parade of heroin addicts as they walked past my front window on their way up from King's Cross. The writing was definitely on the wall for a change. As the Big 5-0 was fast approaching, I found the noise and hustle and bustle of inner-city life tiring, and I started to yearn for something a little more tranquil and serene. As if those reasons weren't enough, there were other incentives for moving. Members of my increasingly large family in Australia are often visiting, and I want to encourage them to do so. With nieces and nephews reaching gap year age now being added to the mix, I wanted to provide a home away from home for them. Staying with me also saves them the cost of finding accommodation in London, which is very expensive. Putting up guests was always a challenge in Camden, as my terraced house only had 1.5 bedrooms, and the big one was mine. I wasn't going to part with my master suite and the little cupboard ensuite for anyone. The small room was the only other place to sleep, and that had been cut in half to make room for my ensuite. It also housed a wardrobe that was heaving with my glitzy suits, and 3 days a week the room had to double up as the office for my PA, Claire. It had a small sofa bed, but when that was folded out, guests couldn't even open a suitcase in the room, let alone get around it to sit at a desk. As she got older, Mum was finding it especially difficult. On her visits, she likes to be able to open her suitcase, unpack completely and put everything away in drawers in the wardrobe. No chance of that happening in Camden. Every morning, I would put the sofa bed back into its sofa position, set her suitcase on the sofa where she would take out what she needed for the day, then put the suitcase back into the cupboard and hope to God that Mum didn't need anything else later that day. Every day, for 6 weeks. To add another layer of complexity, guests usually don't visit in singles, they come in pairs or groups, which added significantly to the logistical dilemmas. I remember that while my niece Isabel was studying acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, she had to move out of her room one night to make way for some more mature guests. She slept peacefully outside on the outdoor sofa, on my rooftop terrace. Luckily, it was summer in London at the time. Back then, I wouldn't have had it any other way, though. I loved being surrounded by people and offering them my hospitality. We had our challenges fitting into that little house, but we're still on speaking terms, and that's all that matters. Another reason that Camden wasn't working for me then is that I am a born entertainer and love nothing more than rustling up a dirty big spag bowl or curry for over 20 people at a time. The kitchen wasn't large enough for me to cater for crowds like that. I longed for the day I had a serving space to dish up special menus plate by plate, rather than a buffet style where people pick up their plates and serve themselves. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was reaching an age where I wanted to explore more fancy culinary pursuits. Prepping in the Camden kitchen was like working in a caravan, and I became an expert in whipping up crowd pleasers in a very small space. I had knocked a wall out to fit in a dining table, but let's just say it was still very cosy entertaining in my little 2-up, 2-down. Like myself, my pink house was also showing signs of wear and tear and needed a serious injection of funds to bring it back to its former glory. I had plans to build an extension, but there is only so much one can do before you start to overcapitalize. The heritage list